The Rogues Gallery of Batman Beyond is filled with new, exciting villains with striking visual designs. The creative team could have quite easily just churned out Beyond versions of pre-existing Batman villains, which would have been fine, I guess, but the fact that they deliberately focused on new villains is one of the series' strongest points. I've already talked about a bunch of Batman Beyond villains that were cruel and callous people driven by a desire for wealth and power, villains like Blight and Spellbinder. But today I want to talk about a completely different type of villain, one that had no real motivations other than wanting to achieve her mission. Let's talk about the mute blue-skinned assassin, Curare. In my most recent Batman Beyond villain poll, nearly 8,000 people voted, with a whopping 54% choosing Curare. Perhaps it shouldn't have surprised me, given that she's a scantily clad blue-skinned assassin, and her competition was Professor Marilyn Manson, a beefed-up explosive Henry Rollins, and a creepy trademark nice guy. I must admit, I didn't expect it to be so one-sided, partially because Curare is a character that never speaks and doesn't really have any profound motivations. She is one of the world's greatest assassins, and all she cares about is getting the job done. As a member of the Society of Assassins, she is assigned high-profile targets because she is pretty much guaranteed to succeed. I suppose the fact that she never speaks and covers half of her face with a veil adds to the mystery surrounding the character. So perhaps that's another thing that makes her appealing. In terms of an origin, one was never given in the show, but a preliminary idea involved her being an orphaned refugee from a terrible war. She had suffered a horrific facial injury from a gas attack, similar to the mustard gas victims of World War I, and she had been taken in by the Society of Assassins, who looked for vulnerable people to turn into weapons. But that was never brought up in the show. As an aside, Glenn Murakami designed a maskless Curare, but they never drew a character model for her, and I think that's a core part of the character. She is supposed to be mysterious. We're not supposed to know anything about her. We don't get to hear her backstory. We never see her face. She's just a kick-ass assassin that exists. Curare made her first appearance in the Batman Beyond episode, A Touch of Curare. First things first, let's talk about the meaning of her name. So curare is a type of poison used by South American tribes to poison their arrows, but it can also be found in medicines for treating tetanus and strychnine poisoning, as well as a paralysing agent used in surgeries. The Latin curare also means to take care for, or to take care of, which can be interpreted in this context as a euphemism for assassination. She's a deadly fixer. Curare is a member of the Society of Assassins, not to be confused with Ra's al Ghul's League of Assassins, also known as the Society of Shadows in Batman the Animated Series, although the two may be connected, and I'll get onto that later on. Curare is their greatest assassin, and the Society has sent her after Gotham's District Attorney Sam Young after he was scheduled to testify against an international arms dealer. Now, the Society has very strict rules. If you fail to take out your target, then you're no longer worthy of being a member and will be executed. The entire episode is about Barbara Gordon and Batman learning to coexist to prevent Curare from being able to kill Sam and to bring her in. Not that the regular rank and file of the GCPD could hold Curare. The episode closes with Curare stealing one of their cruisers, but she is no longer a threat. By failing the mission, she has now become a target of her fellow assassins. Curare's response to her failure is surprising. Considering that she was such a devout member of the Society, you might expect her to sacrifice her own life in penance. However, she clearly wants to live. In the episode Final Cut, we learn that Curare has turned the tables on the Society, and she has been hunting them down one by one and erasing their minds with gas. Sort of how the Society of Shadows members would wipe their own minds when they were caught by Batman. Although Curare is only armed with a scimitar, she performs some really impressive feats, like when she takes down the plane carrying the leader of the Society of Assassins and escapes on a jetpack. The last surviving member of the Society, Mutro Bota, comes to Gotham seeking Batman's protection. Bota coerced Batman into helping him by hiding a bomb within the city that only he could deactivate. Now, this episode is more about the developing partnership between Batman and his friend Max. Max inserts herself into the mission by sneaking into Botra's hotel room and is ambushed by Curare. Fearing for her life, she calls Batman, who abandons Botra to save Max. It's fortunate then that Curare is no crazed killer. Once she realises that Max isn't her target, she calmly leaves. With Batman out of the way, she's able to wipe Botra's mind, potentially dooming Neo Gotham. We learn quite a bit about the new Batman in this episode. He shows absolutely no regard for Botra's safety when Max's life is potentially endangered. And upon learning that Curare has succeeded, he sheds no tears. Instead, he enlists Max's help in finding the bomb. With Botra out of play, Batman and Max team up to find the bomb and capture Curare. When Batman explains the situation to Curare, she doesn't care about saving anyone. even herself. All she cares about is reclaiming her lost honor by murdering Batman. So it's fortunate then that Max came along so that someone could look for the bomb and disarm it. Max could have easily fulfilled an Oracle-style role, being Batman's person in the chair, feeding him intel, although Bruce Wayne was fulfilling that role. But Max can also support Batman in the field, and is someone he can talk to about his experiences, and that's quite an important role. It's worth mentioning that, considering all the advanced technology in this world, Curare was taken out by a good old-fashioned trebuchet catapult. One quick batarang cut the rope, and Curare was launched face-first into a solid brick wall. It's almost comical. This was Curare's final appearance in an animated show. However, as with many villains, she made an appearance in the Batman Beyond tie-in comic books, specifically Batman Beyond Volume 2, Number 9, in a story called The Last of Her Kind. By this point, Curare has escaped from custody, and following the purging of the Society of Assassins, she starts a new organisation in its place. She has a legion of new followers that have to prove themselves before they're able to join her ranks, and must emulate her by remaining silent and using a scimitar. The potential assassins were hired by a man who wanted to kill his wife, and Batman intervenes. Failure is not tolerated, and the unsuccessful assassins gladly give up their lives, which shows how dedicated they are to Curare and her organisation. Batman tracks the assassin to their base and humbles Curare in front of her disciples, causing them to abandon her until she's able to prove herself worthy of their devotion once again. It's this hypocrisy that cements her as a villain in my eyes. She knew the rules of the society when she joined, but refused to fulfill the rules, instead valuing her own life above all else. I can't say that I blame her, but after her experience destroying the society, she's truly wicked for insisting that her devotees be killed if they fail. While the show and the tie-in comics never divulged Curare's origins, a later comic book series provided a potential origin. The digital comic Justice League Beyond's 21st chapter shows us how things may have started for her. This is primarily the origin of their Green Lantern, Cairo, but writers Derek Friedolfs and Dustin Nguyen tie Curare to him. Cairo and his surrogate sister grew up in a Buddhist monastery, but where Cairo embraced his humble upbringing, Curare was bitter and resentful. Both she and Cairo had been abandoned at the monastery by parents that didn't want them, but she wanted a more fulfilling life. When the time came for the new Dalai Lama to be selected, Curare attempted to fix the test to ensure that her name was selected. Cairo inadvertently exposed her scheme when a Green Lantern ring picked him as its new bearer. Both Cairo and Curare were expelled from the monastery, so in a way she got her wish. Both were forced on their separate paths. Cairo went to Oa and joined the Green Lantern Corps, and Curare joined the League of Assassins. It's a short and simple story that is completely plausible, but just remember that neither Friedolfs or Nguyen worked on the cartoon, so it probably doesn't count. It certainly doesn't really gel with the ideas of Glenn Murakami and Dan Reba, but hey, if it fits your personal headcanon, more power to you. Curare eventually found her way to the mainline DC Comics Batman Beyond continuity. She headed to Gotham to warn Batman about the rise of the League of Assassins, led by a seemingly resurrected Ra's al Ghul. Curare's appearance in this storyline is mostly inconsequential, yet somehow manages to last several issues. When she arrives in Gotham pursued by ninjas, she seeks out Barbara Gordon for help. This version of Curare is quite talkative, which is a departure from the show, but I suppose she would have to be given the plot. Along the way, she's stabbed through the chest by Kuru, the demon's right hand and son of Ubu. This is one of the main gripes I have with the mainline Batman Beyond comics. They always take the cheap and easy option of introducing the sons and daughters of pre-existing characters, which goes against the spirit of the original series. Curare is such a side note that they don't even say if she survived being stabbed or not, or if they did, I missed it and I read the story twice. There's an off-the-cuff remark from Batman about how she may be dead, and that's it. And I have to admit, I don't really find Curare all that compelling. She is undeniably a tremendous, relentless killer, but outside of that I don't think she has much going for her. This probably says more about me than it does anything else, but the fact we never really got her motivations or even heard her speak prevents me from forming any sort of attachment to her. Even if I'm not that interested in the character, I do have to admit that the fact that she slaughtered an entire league of legendary assassins on her own is impressive, and the action scenes in her episodes are top-notch. The fact that she was so devoted to her mission that she was willing to kill herself and potentially thousands of people shows how determined she is, but somehow she was never able to beat the new Batman, a self-described kid in a suit. And that's kind of a shame. Okay, that's it for this week's essay. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, tell all your friends about me. You know how YouTube works. If you really enjoyed the video and have the means, please consider making use of the thanks button to send $1 or $2 my way, because every little helps. I offer channel memberships for $1.99 a month. This will get you early access to my weekly video essay, priority responses to your comments, members-only videos, custom emojis, and an icon on your profile indicating that you're one of my people. And special thanks to my current channel members, who are all listed on the screen right now. Next time I will be marking the 1-year anniversary of the death of beloved voice actress Arlene Sorkin, the voice of Harley Quinn, by looking at my favourite Harley Quinn episode of Batman the Animated Series, Harley's Holiday, and how it demonstrates that there's more to Harley Quinn than her abusive relationship with the Joker. Hope to see you then.